Complex problems rarely have simple solutions. And in today's workplace, leaders are increasingly expected to make clear decisions amid pressure, uncertainty, competing priorities, and constant change. At its core, leadership reflects the integration of how we think, act, and live across business, work, and life. And in the workplace, performance leadership is about aligning people, purpose, and processes to consistently achieve meaningful results. It emanates from within and manifests itself outward. To expand the conversation further, on Mondays our discussions turn to the Listening Heart series, in which focus on spiritual leadership in our daily lives. And on Fridays we turn to adaptive leadership in the digital world. Now, what gives me the right to talk about all these things? Well, it really reflects my experiences. 6 years in a seminary under the guidance of Benedictine monks, to 18 years in government at the executive level, to owning my own consulting and training business for over 45 years, and finally to transitioning to the digital world over several years. Now, if you are new to this podcast, welcome, and if you're returning, a heartfelt welcome back. Now, before we begin, I invite you to subscribe so that you never miss an episode, and thank you for doing so. Hello, folks. I'm Richard Fontanie, and I'll be your host today. And we are exploring problem solving and decision making, structured approaches to complex issues. Now, one reason this topic is essential to performance leadership is that organizations rise or fall on the quality of their decisions. Strong decisions improve trust, morale, efficiency, innovation, and long-term performance. But poor decisions create confusion, frustration, delays, and unnecessary conflict. And often, the difference between the two is not intelligence alone. It is the process. Structured problem solving helps leaders slow down enough to think clearly before reacting emotionally. And that matters because workplace pressure can easily trigger untoward decisions. A supervisor receives negative feedback and reacts defensively. A team encounters delays and immediately blames individuals. An executive faces uncertainty and freezes because too many competing factors exist for him. And without a process, leadership becomes reactive instead of intentional. And today I want to share 5 leadership strategies to strengthen decision-making and improve workplace performance. And the first strategy is defining the real problem. Now, many leaders spend their energy solving symptoms rather than root causes. For example, in my own consulting career, I once worked with a company that experienced a decline in team satisfaction scores, way below the 40th percentile mark. The team was failing in almost every category. Management initially assumed employees lacked motivation and they were the problem. After deeper analysis, however, we discovered that it wasn't the people who were the problem, the processes and systems that were causing angst among the team. The real issue was process design, not employee attitude. And once we fixed that, the team scores increased dramatically within 6 months, approaching almost to 80%. Strong leaders ask thoughtful questions and complete the analytics before jumping to conclusions. What exactly is happening? Who is affected? what evidence supports the concern, and what assumptions may be distorting our perspective. Now, defining the problem clearly prevents wasted energy and helps teams focus on meaningful solutions. The second strategy is gathering multiple perspectives. Performance leadership is not about carrying every burden alone. The best leaders involve others in the thinking process. Frontline employees often see operational realities that executives miss. Customers may identify service issues that leaders overlook. Team collaboration often produces stronger solutions because people bring diverse experiences and viewpoints. I once worked with a leadership team that struggled with strategic intent. They were paddling in many different directions. It was time to make a concerted effort to turn the team around. Rather than imposing a top-down mandate, I invited the team into an honest conversation about how we can resolve their problems. The leadership team addressed several issues over the next 2 days, ranging from role confusion to vast communication gaps. And over the ensuing months, the team improved their collaboration, coordination, and communication. Active listening became part of the solution. Trust was strengthened, and morale improved. Now, the moral of this story is that people are more willing to support decisions when they are engaged, feel heard, and are respected. The third strategy is using structured decision-making models. Frameworks help leaders organize information logically during stressful situations. One of the simple tools is the SWOT analysis. Leaders evaluate strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats before making important decisions. And this prevents tunnel vision. Another useful framework is the OODA or OODA loop. I refer you to this week's anchor article in the Fontanie magazine on this topic. I have provided the link below. Leaders observe what is happening, orient themselves to the situation, decide on a response, and then act. So observe, orient, decide, act, make up the acronym OODA. The process encourages flexibility and continuous adjustment. And these models are valuable because they reduce emotional reactivity. Instead of panicking under pressure, the leaders follow a process. Processes create stability. Now, the fourth strategy is balancing urgency with reflection. Some decisions require immediate action. Others require a thoughtful pause. Wise leaders learn the difference. A healthcare emergency may demand quick coordination. A major organizational restructuring may require much deeper consultation and analysis. Performance leadership involves managing both speed and wisdom. And one executive I encountered used a simple practice before making major decisions. He would pause briefly and ask himself 3 questions. What are the short-term consequences? What are the long-term consequences? And how will this decision affect people? And that is probably the most important question he asked. And those questions helped him avoid impulsive reactions. Reflection creates clarity, and clarity improves leadership confidence. The fifth strategy is creating a learning culture. And this is one of my favorite ones. No leader makes perfect decisions all the time. Mistakes do happen. Projects do fail. Unexpected obstacles emerge. But healthy organizations treat setbacks as opportunities for learning rather than occasions to blame. A learning culture encourages continuous improvement. Teams evaluate what worked. They examined what failed. They identify lessons. And then they apply those lessons moving forward. Now, this mindset strengthens their team. Employees become more willing to innovate because fear decreases. And innovation matters greatly in today's rapidly changing environments. Now, let me share another practical workplace story. A manufacturing company faced repeated delivery delays that frustrated customers and damaged team morale. By the way, this was a company I didn't work with. It's a story my colleague told me about. And in this case, managers initially blamed production staff. Rather interesting that this is often the case. However, after carefully reviewing operations, they discovered communication breakdowns among the purchasing, scheduling, and shipping departments. Instead of targeting individuals, my colleague engaged the leadership team to redesign workflow coordination. Departments had quarterback huddles every morning. Information sharing improved. Delivery timelines stabilized, and customer satisfaction increased. The solution emerged because leaders examined systems rather than searching for someone to blame. Pardon me. Now, that principle matters deeply. Blame creates defensiveness. Problem solving creates progress. Now, the same lesson applies in our personal lives. Families solve problems more effectively when individuals communicate openly rather than attack one another. Community organizations improve when members focus on solutions instead of personal agendas. Leadership always influences relationships. That is why emotional intelligence also matters in problem solving. Leaders who remain calm during pressures help others remain calm. Leaders who communicate respectfully create psychological safety. And leaders who demonstrate consistency strengthen trust. Performance leadership is never just about efficiency. It is about creating environments where people can contribute, improve, and succeed together. So, what practical action can we take this week? Well, we can first identify one unresolved challenge that you may be avoiding. Second, we can define the problem clearly instead of reacting emotionally. And third, invite perspectives from people directly affected. Fourth, choose a structured framework to guide your thinking. And fifth, act decisively while remaining flexible enough to adjust if necessary. Always remember, though, leadership growth happens through practice, one interaction at a time. And sustainable excellence is built on rhythms and not marathons. Every conversation, meeting, challenge, and decision is an opportunity to strengthen clarity, wisdom, and confidence. Now, I invite you to bring this podcast into your next conversation, your next meeting, or your coaching session, and reflect on what happens as a result. Now, if this conversation resonated with you, please subscribe, like, and refer to a friend. And thank you for doing so. I'm Richard Fontanie. Next week on Coaching Talks, our conversation turns to critical thinking skills, and how we engage others in that process. I hope you can join me. Bye now.